Except she can't see your face. There we go. It's beautiful.
I put answers down.
I didn't get the last two proofs either.
I put answers down.
I don't think I got proofs.
No, like I did.
I don't know. I didn't understand. I just like wrote down my theorem to one.
Yeah, right. I just
That's
put.
what we did in
There was, like,
the
two
oral
steps.
exercise. That's what
I don't know. I just did it.
No, I did like extra.
Paige thought we were going to literature class again.
Of course.
I think I'm getting a cold.
Good thing I got my flu shot.
Alright.
Go ahead and give us your.
Not as good idea.
I got the flu last year so bad. So that's why.
Voting? Picking it. No marine. I know the homework.
I understand
Did you guys get to number one?
That's what I did. Literally supposed to do. Because that's what I did.
Oh, I did. I put the game on.
None. And then given it has a corresponding angle.
Yeah.
Pocket 12.
Yep.
I do number 9. Number 9. You can't do it. There's nothing to do, so it's just none.
Oh, it's not.
13. I did 5. Finished it. I don't know.
I didn't do that. I only got like the right one.
What? Well, I was thinking just get the opposite as 11, but then I was like, that's too easy.
Are you talking about 13?
Yeah.
Did you? I think I did it wrong. Like I got.
Like, I feel like I know what to do. Like, just do the opposite. And try to do it. But would this be right? Like, I don't know.
I'd have to look at the problem. We'll go over.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then I was like, that seems too simple.
A lot of them were pretty short, actually.
Oh, so maybe that is right.
So maybe you're overcomplicating.
Yeah.
Each how many steps did we do?
Is your hair dark?
Yeah. I like it.
And then you just set the
Your hair is so
or
pretty.
angles.
Yeah. And then mom.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Marty?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay.
Number 15, I couldn't figure out what the relationship was.
I did 15.
And 13, I don't know why we didn't know oral exercise.
Yeah.
So I did.
But remember when I got given theorem 3, and postulate? What'd you get?
I got corresponding
I
for 11. I got
Okay.
given corresponding.
Also, I have your.
That's your homework.
I like mine during the break.
So let's go over those first, and then we'll go over questions on your test. I would like to offer you the opportunity to make corrections on these. Some of you didn't do as well as you normally do. So, as we're going through, if you want to, in a different color, or if you wrote in pencil or a pen or something, go through and correct them. As we go, I will give you some more points back. Just leave what you have and just off to the side somewhere next to it. Make your corrections. Okay. Alright. Some of you missed the angle relationships in the first part, and that's going to be important that you know those in order to be able to do the proofs and also to be able to do what we're doing now. So again, if you missed any of those, please do make corrections and then I'll add points back on to your quiz. I think everyone got number 1 was T. Who would like to tell us the 4 pairs of corresponding angles here?
1 and 5, 2 and 6, 4 and 8, 3 and 7.
Right. Okay, so again, 1 and 5 are corresponding. So those are both like in the upper left-hand corner of the intersection. 4 and 8, 2 and 6, and 3 and 7. A couple of you missed that. Okay. 2 pairs of alternate interior angles. Morgan?
1 and 7 and 6 and 4.
Those are the exterior.
Oops, I put that for exterior, sorry, I didn't.
You just get the one. Aaron?
2 and 8 and 3 and 5.
Good. 2 and 8 and 3 and 5 are the interior, and like Morgan said, 1 and 7 and 4 and 6 are the exterior. And then consecutive interior are on the same side of the transversal, both in the interior. Madeline?
3 and 8 and 2 and 5.
Good. And then consecutive exterior, Aaron?
1 and 6 and 4 and 7.
Okay, good. Any questions about those? Okay, most of you did well on the fill in the blanks. Postulate 11, if 2 parallel lines are cut by transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. Number 8, theorem 3-1, if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate interior angles are congruent. And number 9, if a transversal is perpendicular to one of 2 parallel lines, it is perpendicular to the other one also. Okay, and you did a nice job on 10 through 13 as well. 10 was 77 degrees, 11 was 103, 12 was 77, and 13 was 77. Any questions on the front? Okay. On the back, I did also, this was out of 40 points, but most of our quizzes have been closer to 20, so I did cut it in half, so it's not weighted as being 40 points on Teacheries. If you looked, whatever your score is, I cut it in half to get out of 20 instead, especially since we didn't do that well on it overall, so it doesn't affect your grade as much. On the back, 14, some of you had this in a little bit different order, but as long as you had all 4 steps and all 4 reasons, I gave you a point. There was 1 point for each statement, 1 point for each reason. Number 1, S is parallel to T, and that was given. And so number 2, angle 1, I said is congruent to angle 2 because of postulate 11. Some of you said the second given, which is fine, that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and that was given. And then angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 because of theorem 215 transitive, or some of you said substitution for that. Questions about 14? Morgan?
Why couldn't you say angle 1 and angle 2 are corresponding angles, and then definition of corresponding angles, and then 2 and 3 are congruent because of postulate 11?
Because postulate 11 is the one that says that corresponding angles are congruent, and 2 and 3 are not corresponding angles. Some of you did add in the step that said angle 1 and angle 2 are corresponding angles, but then you would still need to say that angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent. before you can say that, 2 and 3 are congruent. Okay, nice.
What's the reason for angle 1 is congruent to angle 2?
Postulate 11. Other questions on 14? Okay, 15. Number 1 is given. Number 2 is theorem 3-1. Those are alternate interior angles. Number 3 is the definition of congruent angles, which says if angles are congruent, then their measures are equal. Number 4 is theorem 2-1. Number 5 is the definition of supplementary angles. And number 6 is substitution principle. Sarah?
I said theorem 215 translated for numbers.
And that one isn't really gonna work in this case because you're just taking one thing and plugging it. We're just taking angle, the measure of angle 3 and plugging it in where the measure of angle 5 is. Transitive is when we say like, this is equal to this and this is equal to this, therefore this is equal to this. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, Morgan?
For number 3, why couldn't you say definition of alternate interior angles?
They are alternate interior angles. I wonder, by definition, are their measures equal? I think by definition we say they're congruent, which is why we said that theorem 3-1 is because of alternate interior angles, but let me check on that. Well, okay, alternate interior angles don't necessarily have to have equal measures. They do if they're parallel lines, so that would have to be the definition of congruent angles. Other questions on that? No? Okay, and then the indirect proof, suppose that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. We suppose the opposite of what we're trying to prove. So we're supposing that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Then in the second line you needed 2 parts. You need to say the reason and you need to say what's happening. So because of theorem 2-6, T is perpendicular to K. Theorem 2-6 is the one that says if 2 adjacent angles are congruent, then they are forming perpendicular lines. Aaron?
What did you say again, because of theorem 2-6?
T is perpendicular to K. We actually did this one on the board the day before the quiz. But this contradicts our given fact that T is not perpendicular to K. Hence, our assumption that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 is false, and it follows that angle 1 is not congruent to angle 2. Okay? Questions on the indirect? Okay. Anything else in the quiz? Alright, I'll take those back from you. Yes.
Are we gonna get half of those back or all of them?
Half. If you need more time to make your corrections, just let me know.
It's probably the first time in geometry you have still in the same grade.
I didn't understand that quick.
Just stay a little bit of it.
Alright, let's go over questions that you had on your assignment. I know there was some questions on the proofs especially. Aaron?
You number 11.
Alright, number 11. So the measure of angle 1 is 101 and the measure of angle 2 is 101. And that is given. So then what can we say? Aaron?
Next I did, angle 1 is congruent to angle 2.
Okay. Because of what?
Because of the definition of corresponding angles.
Definition of congruent angles.
Oh, congruent.
Because if their measures are equal then the angles are congruent, that's the definition of congruent angles. And then ultimately we're trying to prove that F is parallel to G. So you only need, that's all you need. F is parallel to G because of what?
I said postulate 11, but he says it's postulate 12. I'm not sure.
Rylan?
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, yes?
I did measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 3 are corresponding angles because of postulate 11. Does that still work
For number 11?
Yeah, for number 2. So then I could do for like number 3, F is parallel to G because of postulate 12.
Postulate 12 is the one that says the corresponding angles, and 1 and 2 are the corresponding angles in that picture, so you don't really need angle 3.
Oh, wait. I wrote angle 2. So
What?
I wrote angle 2. I just
Okay.
So would
I'm
that
not sure what you're asking.
would that work instead of saying that they're congruent?
What did you say?
Measure of angle 1 and measure of angle 2 are corresponding angles because of postulate 11?
They are corresponding angles, but postulate 11 is the one that says that they're congruent if the lines are parallel. And we don't know that the lines are parallel yet. That's what we're trying to
Okay.
prove. So once we know that they're congruent, then we can say that the lines are parallel. So
I said that 1 and 2 are corresponding angles, and then definition of corresponding angles, and then measure of angle 1 equals, or is congruent to the measure of angle 2 because of definition of congruent angles, and then F is parallel to G for the postulate. So,
okay, so you just added in basically that 1 and 2 are corresponding angles.
yeah. 'Cause
That's
it's
fine. You can do that. This is postulate 12, yes, the answer to your question here. Because postulate 12 is the one that says if their corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. Postulate 11 is the one that says if the lines are parallel, then the angles are congruent.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, what else? Morgan?
Number 9.
Number 9 would be none.
Page 13.
13. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Okay, where did you guys go from there? Huh?
And then I did angle 1 and angle 3 and angle 4, or angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical angles, like 2 in the same step.
Okay, really you only need to do one of those. It doesn't matter which one you do. Because ultimately we need to say that a pair of corresponding angles is congruent, or alternate interior angles.
Yeah.
So if you just said one of those, you could use corresponding angles. If you said both and then you use alternate interior. Okay, so you could do it either way. Last steps would just be to say that angle 2 is congruent to angle 4 because of whichever theorem says all vertical angles are congruent. Yeah. I don't know what number it is, but yeah, you can write vertical angles are congruent. You could have also said 1 is congruent to 3 for the same reason, or like Madeline did both, and then she's going to use theorem 3-2 instead of, or theorem 3-3 instead of postulate 11, but you could do it either way. And so then you would have to say at some point, either, I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 because of theorem 215 transitive. Or again, there's other ways of doing this. You could end up with 3 is congruent to 4 depending on what you chose, or you could end up with 2 is congruent to 3 depending on how you did it. There's multiple ways. And so then, if I'm saying 1 and 2, then I'm going to say postulate 12 again. Questions? Okay, what else? I wondered. Okay. So first we have measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 6 equals 180, and the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180. What can you say from there? Paige?
I have measurement angle 2, it's measurement angle 6, and theorem 215 transitive. Because you have it 3 and 6 are equal, and then the 2 and 3 are equal, so wouldn't that mean the 2 and 6 are also equal?
Yes. My problem is with your reason.
Okay.
That is true, and that is where I want to go next. I'm actually just going to say that angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Does anyone have a different reason for that? There's a theorem, Aaron?
I had theorem 3-3.
No, Sarah?
I had theorem 211.
Is that the one that says if two angles are corresponding to the same angle, then they're congruent? Or supplementary, I mean, yes. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, they are congruent to each other. Yes. So that is theorem 211. You might want to say prior to that angle 3 is supplementary to angle 6, and angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3. And then say angle 2 is congruent to angle 6, because I'm figuring out 211, which says if two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they're congruent to each other. Okay, so from there, we have 2 and 6, which are what kind of angles? Corresponding, so that's good enough, and we can say that the lines are parallel. BC is parallel to EF. Because of postulate 12, we didn't use 3, 3, or 3, 4 in any of these. Okay. Alright, we are not going to move on, so we don't have enough time. So tomorrow we'll talk about, section 3.5, and we do not have any.
Is class over, do we still have time?
We actually have 3 minutes left of class, so. Something else needs to work on, but we don't have time to get started.
I would turn it off. Turn it off first.
Just, I don't know how. Make it like this.
There's a recording button on the make this one.
Stop shaking it. Stop.